How you doing there? Welcome back to Babble on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tzadi Aleph, Daf 91 of Masechta Chullin. Friends, awesome daf. The first part of the daf we discuss how many gid hanashes are in an animal. Of course, we saw a Mishnah 2 days ago where we described that in the Mishnah v'yerich shel yamin uv'yerich shel small, that there's a gid hanasha in each of the back two legs. We're going to see the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda on that. That will be the big sugya of today's daf. The big sugya of today's daf to understand Rabbi Yehuda's shita of having just one gid hanasha. This is a shita that has come up in the past few weeks here and there. That is the big sugya in today's daf, the big work to do. And then, after work, we have play. I don't know if play is the right word. Agadata. Beautiful, brilliant, marvelous Agadata. Chevre, let's jump in and let's enjoy ourselves and learn Daf Tzadi Aleph, Daf 91 of Masechta Chullin. Friends, we begin Daf Tzadi Amid Beis. About somewhere between 10 and 15 lines, I'd say, from the bottom. The Gemara quotes from the Mishnah, B'yerich shel yamin u'b'yerich shel small, that our Mishnah had said that each animal contains two gid hanashes, a gid hanasha in the back right leg and a gid hanasha in the back left leg. Says the Gemara, Masnisin Delek Rabbi Yehuda, that our Mishnah is not the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The sign it because we learn in a brayso. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is Eino noig ele ba'achas. There is but one gid hanasha in an animal. The adas machras es shel yamin. The question is what this means, but he says, I think it's the right one. Your brother asked the question, Mifshat pshita le Rabbi Yehuda? Is Rabbi Yehuda certain that the gid hanasha is in the back right leg? Umay das Torah. When he says das machras, it's talking about das Torah. That then how do you define das machras? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Das machras. I don't know. I don't know how to define it. But what's this das Torah? The knowledge of Torah. How do you define das Torah? The point is, it's a midoraisa. When Rabbi Yehuda says, right, that it's the right gid hanasha, is he saying it's definitely the right gid hanasha? It's das Torah, it's midoraisa. Or maybe when he says adas machras, he's saying I'm not sure. Umay das notet, I'm leaning towards saying it's the right one, but I can't tell you for sure. So that's the question. Okay. So what do we know? What do we know? It's important to know what we know and to know what we don't know, because we're about to dive deep into Rabbi Yehuda's shita. So what we know according to Rabbi Yehuda is that there's one gid hanasha per animal. We also know that Rabbi Yehuda said something about it being the right gid hanasha. The question is, what exactly did he say about it being the right gid hanasha? Is it definitely the right gid hanasha? Or is it possibly the right gid hanasha, but it could also possibly be the left one? And that is our mission now, to try to figure this out. According to Rabbi Yehuda, is the one gid hanasha that he's talking about the right gid hanasha, or is it a Safek? Tashma Kamanir, ha'atzomis v'agidim v'anoser yisarfu l'shisha aser. Who wants to explain this to us? What's this talking about? Ha'atzomis v'agidim v'anoser yisarfu l'shisha aser. Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach, we offer, we slaughter it on the 14th of Nisan. We eat it at the Seder at night. Anything that's left over, right? So siru mimenu ad boker v'anosim mimenu ad boker ba'ish yisrofu. I probably got that somewhat accurately. So atzomas v'agin v'anoser. So the bones, the sinews, the meat that's left over from a Korban Pesach, yisarfu l'shisha aser, so you don't burn them the next morning on Yom Tif, on the 15th of Nisan. Rather, you wait till the first day of Chol HaMoed and you burn them then on the 16th day. So the bones, what are the bones that we're talking about? Rashi says we're talking about, the bones, because of course, you're not allowed to break the bones of the Korban Pesach. So there's marrow. Marrow is meat. It's basar, but you're not allowed to get to it. So basically, the bones containing the marrow is noser, so you have to burn that. Now, the noser is talking about any leftover meat. Any meat that you didn't eat, you have to burn. What are the gidim? That's the question. What are these gidim that we have to be taught need to be burned? Hatzamos v'agidim v'anoser yisarfu l'shisha osur. V'avinan b'am, we ask, hanegidin maya v'tztayu. What are these gidim that need to be burnt on the 16th of Nisan? Igide basar, if we're talking about just different sinews and nerves and things that are part of the meat, right? Meat contains in it different veins and things like that. Right? You see them sometimes in meat, different kinds of veins, sinews, tendons. You can eat them. So yigidei basar lechlinu, so just eat them. Why are you burning them? Eat them. V'ida iser hanunoser. Okay, and if you didn't eat them, well, there were 3 items on that list: bones, gidim, but also noser. What's noser? Meat, leftover meat. So if we're talking about just regular kind of like tendons and stuff that are in the, sinews that are in the meat, well, it's just regular meat. So either eat it, or if it's left over, it's noser, and you burn it like noser. What's the gidim that we have to talk about specifically? Elegide tzaver. Okay, maybe it is the very strong, the hard neck sinews that you're not going to eat because they're too hard. Okay, lav basar ninu. Well, if they're not meat, lijdinu, so throw them in the garbage. What do I mean? If they're not meats, and they're not, so then there's no chiyuv to eat it, and there's no issue of no, so throw it in the garbage. From Rav Chisda, so says Rav Chisda, you know what these gidim are? We're talking about the gid hanashes. The gid hanashes, according to the shita of Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar who says ein noig ela ba'achas. The Rabbi Yehuda says that there's only one gid hanashes, and therefore, because of shitas Rabbi Yehuda that there's only one gid hanashes, you have to burn it, and we have to teach you that you have to burn it. Okay, so I can understand what's going on here if we say that Rabbi Yehuda is uncertain which gid hanashes it is. There's one gid hanashes per animal. We don't know which one it is. Is it the left gid hanashes, the right gid hanashes? We don't know. So what this brisa is teaching is that you push it have to burn both of them, because we don't know which gid hanashes is. So let's actually go weiter for a second. Eli Amrat, but if you say mifshad pshitale, if you say that it's clear to Rabbi Yehuda that it's the right gid hanashes, and that when he says das machras es shel yamin, it means it's definite, das Torah, it's definitely the right gid hanashes. So that Torah lechle, the isur l'shdayit. So I don't understand what the brisa is saying. If according to Rabbi Yehuda is definitely the right gid hanashes, so we know exactly what to do. The one that's the gid hanashes, throw in the garbage. The one that you're not allowed to eat, throw in the garbage. The one that you're allowed to eat it. And if you don't eat it, throw in the garbage. If you don't eat it, burn it. Then it's noser. So what's the shaila? Why does the brisa teach me the gidin? Specifically teach me the gidin need to be burnt. Right? If we know exactly which one is a gid hanashes, then there's nothing special about this case. Rather, it must be that Rabbi Yehuda is actually not sure which gid hanashes it is. And because at the end of the day, Rabbi Yehuda isn't sure which gid hanashes it is, the brisa is saying you have to burn both of them, because either might be the gid hanashes, or it might actually be meat. And because you can't eat it out of the Safek that maybe you're eating the gid hanashes, you have to leave it over. But one of them is going to be meat, one of them is going to be the gid hanashes. We don't know which one is which. So mainly you have to leave them and burn them. Amar Bika bar Chanina, however, says Rav Ika bar Chanina, that's what he says. He says, I could argue that according to Rabbi Yehuda, it is definitely the right the right leg. Okay, so if that's the case, we know exactly what to do. What do I need the brisa for? The gid hanashe, throw in the garbage, the other one eat it. Or burn it if it's noser. Well, they got mixed together. That's what happened. You weren't careful. You had the two gid hanashes. You weren't careful. The two gid hanashes got mixed together. And now we don't know which one. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, one of them is the gid hanashe, one of them isn't. And now we have a Safek. We have these two gid hanashes. We don't know which one's which. So that's why you got to burn them. So you can argue that according to Rabbi Yehuda, it definitely is the right gid hanashe. The reason why the brisa is saying that you have to burn them is because they got mixed together, the right one and the left one, and now we don't know which one's which, and that's why you have to burn them. Okay, so we haven't been able to prove yet if Rabbi Yehuda is saying it's for sure the right one or maybe the right one. I got to drink some tea and we'll go weiter. Gewaltig. Rav Ashi says, Lo nitzrucha ela l'shamno. Says Rav Ashi that this has nothing to do with Rabbi Yehuda. This brisa that says that you have to burn the gid, that they have to burn the gid hanashe has nothing to do with the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. It has to do with the fat of the gid hanashe. Around the gid hanashe, there are fats. Mid'oraise, those fats are mutter. Mid'rabanan, we say don't eat the fats that are surrounding the gid hanashe. And therefore, we're kind of stuck. On the one, so we're saying, on the one hand, you can't eat them. So you got to leave them over. On the other hand, you can't just throw them in the garbage because mid'oraise they're meat. So we're saying what you do is, when it comes to the fat around the gid hanashe, that when it comes to the Korban Pesach, you're going to have to leave over. You can't eat it, mid'rabanan. We don't eat the fats of the gid hanashe. And therefore, you also can't throw it in the garbage, because mid'oraisa it's kosher, and you got to leave it over and burn it. Right, again, Rav Ashi almost says, Rav Ashi l'nitzcha el l'shamno. The brisa, when it's talking about the gidim, it's talking about the fat surrounding the gid hanashe. The sign that we're learning in the brisa, shamno mutter, that while the fats around the gid hanashe are mutter, are mid'oraisa permitted, the Yisrael kadoshim. The yidden are very, very holy. Holy yidden. Nagubo Isser, they, as a, what does Rashi say? Osin siag la Torah. Nagubo Isser. Right? The holy yidden that they make boundaries around the Torah, protections for the Torah, safeguards for the holy Torah, to preserve the holy Torah. So we don't, right? We don't eat the gid hanashe. We don't even eat the fats surrounding the gid hanashe. And in terms of the Korban Pesach, that means that they're going to have to be burnt on the 16th of Nisan. Ravina Amar, says Ravina, something very, very interesting. Lo nitzrucha ela l'chad Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. It's needed for Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Shnei gidin hein. There are two gid hanashes. Pnimi samuch le'etzem asur v'chayav and olav. Chitzon samuch lebasar asur ve'ein chayav and olav. There is the inner gid hanashe and there is the outer gid hanashe. The inner gid hanashe is the gid hanashe, is asur mid'oraisa. If you eat it, you chayav makis. The outer gid hanashe is not the gid hanashe, but mid'rabanan we say don't eat that either. And if you do eat it, you're not chayav makis. Let's take a look at a diagram over here. Let's take a look at the inner gid hanashe and the outer gid hanashe. So we see here, okay, so here's a diagram of the gid hanashe stuff. So the very top arrow, that is pointing to the inner gid hanashe, to the gid hanashe. The pasuk says, "Al kain lo yochlu bnei Yisrael gid hanashe asher al kaf hayarich." It's on the kaf hayarich. I'm still struggling a little bit with understanding the kaf hayarich. I guess like Rabbi Yehuda is saying, hadas note. My das is note, or das machras. I don't know. Maybe I'm more note than machras. But basically, my understanding is that The yarech, which, right, of course we know that there are three sections of the leg. The top section is the yarech. Now, directly around the bone of the yarech there is meat. And that meat kind of wraps around the bone cylindrically. The other option is maybe the meat mamish at the top of the yarech. But I'm not sure about that. The art school, they refer to it as the I don't remember what they call it. The quadris something. Let's see do I have it open here? I don't know. I'm not going to spend too much time on that trying to find it. But let me see if I have. Yeah, what does it say? What it is? Where do I have it? It's the quadris something. I can't see it now. But it's the the quadriceps femoris muscles. The quadriceps femoris muscles. Now, the quadriceps femoris muscles, I looked it up. I think that they're basically all of the meat, all of the muscle surrounding, I think, the thigh bone. So I think that's what it's a reference to. That's the kaf hayarech. If you look at the arrow, I don't know. If you look at the arrow, it's a little bit unclear. By the kaf hayarech, it's like the top part of the thing. I'm not exactly sure, quite honestly. It's hard for me to tell for sure, but the quadriceps femoris, I think, is basically all the muscles basically surrounding the yarech. Anyways, either way, the gid hanashes is asher al kaf hayarech. It's on top. It doesn't go through that meat. It's not in that meat. It's above that meat. And if you look at that top arrow in the diagram, right, so you see that long gid, that long nerve that goes from the spinal column, from the back of the spinal column, and it goes above the kaf hayarech, above the thigh bone, above the meat surrounding the thigh bone, not in it, but above it. And it then goes all the way down the leg. That is the gid hanashes. That's the inner gid hanashes. Why is it called the inner gid hanashes? Because it's like in between the two legs, right? Its position is, it's not on the outer side of the leg, it's on the inner side of the leg, right? Facing, right? We're talking about the right leg, so it's facing the left leg. Now, there is also the outer gid hanashes, which is not the gid hanashes midoraisa. It's not al kaf hayarech. Now, there's differing minhagim of what this actually is between minhag Ashkenaz and minhag Taimani, Yemenite. So without getting into too much, but the Ashkenaz one is the one kind of to the right of the gid hanashes, right? So like towards the spine, you see that there are kind of like two gid hanashes that are the one further back, coming out from further back on the spine, is the gid hanashes that we were just talking about. The one to the right of that, the one coming out from earlier in the spine. So you see that kind of goes down, and there's like dotted lines in that quadriceps femoris muscle. So it like goes inside of the muscle. It's not al kaf hayarech, it goes kind of in the muscle. So yeah, why is it called the outer one? So I think according to the Ashkenazim, I think that they struggle a little bit more to explain why it's necessarily called the outer one. It's not. I think it's not as inner as the other one. Anyways, the Teimanim, they have. If you look down, if you go further down the gid hanashes, so you see how the gid hanashes kind of by like the knee kind of splits into two. So the one that splits off to the right, the Teimanim say that that's the outer gid hanashes. For them, it makes more sense that it is more outer. It is more outer, but anyways, but it doesn't necessarily go like through the quadriceps femoris though. Anyways, okay, so what have we just learned? We've just learned about the gid hanashes we've learned that there are two gid hanashes, right? There's the inner gid hanashes, which is the gid hanashes, and it's also midoraisa. As we see in the diagram, it's the one that goes al kaf hayarech, on the kaf hayarech. Also, as we're going to learn later on, a sheet of ha-yarech means the entire yarech. We see that the gid hanashes goes down the entirety of the leg. Now, so that's the gid hanashes. It's also midoraisa. And then we also saw that there is a secondary gid hanashes, which is not the gid hanashes midoraisa, and it's also midorabanan. We saw there's two opinions about what exactly it is, but everyone agrees that secondary gid hanashes is not the gid hanashes, and it's only also midorabanan. Okay, fine. Now, what's the point of this? The point of this is to say that when we're talking about the gidim, we're talking about that secondary gid hanashes. That secondary gid hanashes that isn't the gid hanashes, So you can't just throw it in the garbage, because technically it's not the gid hanashe, it's meat, but midrabanan, we don't eat it because it's this kind of secondary gid hanashe. So what do? You burn it on the 16th of Nisan. Again, so third line of Tzadi Aleph Mid Aleph, Ravina Amar says, Ravina le'nitzcha ela lich Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Shnei Gidin hein, there are two gid hanashes, Pnimi, Samach le'etzem, the inner gid hanashe, the one that's close to the bone, right? We saw it goes just above the kaf hayarech, right? Just above that meat where the thigh bone meets the hip bone. Also, so that is the gid hanashe. It's also midoraisa v'chayav nolav v'chayav karis. No, you chayav makis if you eat it. Chitzon, the outer gid hanashe, the secondary gid hanashe, samuch lebasar, which is close to the meat. So now the question is, what exactly that means? So we said, like according to the Ashkenazim minhag, I think that's easier to understand because it kind of goes through the quadriceps femoris muscle or whatever. According to the Teimanim, it doesn't necessarily go through that, but according to the Teimanim, theirs is more outer than the Ashkenazi one. Also, the ein chayav nolav, that secondary gid hanashe is asur, but there's no chiyuv makis. And because it's only asur midirabanan, midaraisa, it is mutter to eat. So we don't eat it because it's asur midirabanan, but we also can't throw it in the garbage because it's technically meat, and therefore you have to burn it on the 16th of Nisan. And now we're going to see some Gemaras that we saw 8 days ago on Daf Pei Gimel of Masechta Chullin. Tashma Kamanir, Achol Mize Kazayis Umize Kazayis. If you have a animal and it's got two gid hanashes, and you eat a kazayis from the right gid hanashe, and you eat a kazayis from the left gid hanashe, what Rashi wants to explain from the fact that we're talking about the right and the left separately, it means that with two separate Hasra'as, two separate warnings, two separate eatings of the gid hanashe, Safek Shmonim, according to Tanakama, this person will receive 80 lashes. I think I said the other day, two servings, two helpings, two servings, two portions. Maybe I said 2 portions of lashes. Akoponim. Okay, so a person eats both gid hanashes, he needs to get a double portion of lashes, 40 each, for a grand total of 80. Good luck. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Eino Sofek Ela Arboyim, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says that for eating both gid hanashes, you get 40 lashes. Iyamar Pishlam Mifshat Pshita Le Shapir Eli Omar Tsapukim Misapka Le Avili Asra Safek Vishamini Le Rabbi Yehuda Damar Asra Safek Leshma Asra Pam 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 Param. Rabbi Yehuda says that for eating both of these gid hanashes, you get one helping of lashes, one portion of lashes. Now, if you said that according to Rabbi Yehuda, he's 100% certain that midoraisa, we're talking about the right leg, the gid hanashe in the right leg. Okay, I get it. According to Rabbi Yehuda, when he eats the gid hanashe he eats the gid hanashe of the right leg and the gid hanashe of the left leg, we warn him, hey, you're about to eat the gid hanashe of the right leg, you're going to get makis, and he's going to get makis for that. It's Hasra'as vadai. If you eat that gid hanashe of the right leg, you're going to get makis. The left leg we don't care about, but he gets 40 lashes because he ate the gid hanashe from the right leg. But if we say that ultimately Rabbi Yehuda is not sure if it's the gid hanashe of the right leg or the left leg, well then maximum we can only offer a Hasra'as Safek, a doubtful Hasra'ah. Hey, don't eat that right gid hanashe because maybe it's the gid hanashe and you might be chayiv lashes. Hey, don't eat that left gid hanashe because maybe that's the gid hanashe and maybe you'll be chayiv for eating that. Each Hasra'ah would be doubtful if we don't know for sure which one is the gid hanashe. So from the fact that Rabbi Yehuda is saying that he's chayiv 40 lashes as opposed to 0 lashes, it must be that he's certain that it's the right leg where the gid hanashe is, and therefore when he eats the right gid hanashe, we say, hey, you're going to be chayiv makis, and he in fact gets makis. Again, Toshma al miza kazayis, if he eats a kazayis from the right gid hanashe, the left gid hanashe, Sofek Shmonim, he gets 80 lashes, a double portion. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Eino Sofek El Arbaim, he only gets a single portion, he only gets 40. If you say that according to Rabbi Yehuda, it is certainly the right Gid Hanoshe, I understand why he's getting 40 lashes for eating the right Gid Hanoshe. But if you say that Rabbi Yehuda ultimately is uncertain which one it is, Havila Hasra'as Safek. So for each individual warning was a doubtful warning. You might be chayiv to lashes if in fact the Gid Hanoshe that you're eating is the Gid Hanoshe, but we don't know. And we know that Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is doubtful hasra'as are ineffective. You have to have an 100% certain hasra'ah. Don't eat that because it is the Gid Hanoshe. Saying don't eat that because it might be the Gid Hanoshe is ineffective. The Tana's learning a brisa. We saw this a week ago. That if you have a baby, a child doesn't have to be a young child, could be an adult already, but you had a child that was born to a mother and a father. However, there are questions. Basically, his mother got divorced, right? Sarah got divorced from Reuven. Now, the halacha is you have to wait at least 3 months. She has to wait at least 3 months before marrying Shimon. That way, if she got pregnant from Reuven, by the time she married Shimon, we would know, right? You would know, right? She would know that she was pregnant from Reuven, and that the baby is hers and Reuven's, not hers and Shimon. But she only waited 2 months, and then got married to Shimon, and 7 months later had a baby. Now we don't know who the father is. Was it a full-term pregnancy from Reuven or a 7-month pregnancy from Shimon? We don't know. So now this baby doesn't know who his father is. Now the nafkaminas, for example, if you curse your parents, you chayiv misa. If you hit your parents, you're also chayiv misa. Right? If you wound them. So now, the thing is, we don't know who his father is. So the Tani hika is zeh v'chazvika is zeh. So if he hit Reuven, right? The child hits Reuven, and then afterwards he hits Shimon. Kila as zeh v'chazv kila as zeh, or cursed Reuven and then cursed Shimon. Shneim vasachas or shekilo shneim. Wait, what? Did I skip something? Hika zeh v'chazvika is zeh, kila zeh v'chazv kila is zeh. Hika shneim vasachas or shekilo shneim vasachas, or he hit both of them together, or he cursed both of them together. In any of these scenarios, says the Tanakama chayv. Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda b'vas achas chayv, b'zachas zeh potter. Rabbi Yehuda says no. He's only going to be chayav for either hitting or cursing his parents, his father, if he hit them both at the same time or cursed them both at the same time. However, if he cursed them separately, says Rabbi Yehuda, he's not chayav. Or if he hit them separately, he's not chayav. Why? Because we don't know who the father is. So therefore, we can't actually warn him, hey, don't hit Reuven, he's your father. He might be your father. Don't hit Shimon, he might be your father. That's Hasra'as Safek. Doesn't work. It's only going to work if we say, hey, don't hit them. Or hey, don't curse them. And then he curses both of them, or hits both of them, so Memele, one of them was his father. But individually, says Rabbi Yehuda, that you'd be potter for that, because it's maximum, it's a doubtful warning individually. So we see that Rabbi Yehuda says, Hasra'as Safek lo shma asra. And therefore, getting back to our question of the two Gid Hanoshes, min chayv 40 lashes, it must be that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the right Gid Hanoshe is definitely the Gid Hanoshe, which is why you can get lashes. And for the Gemara, Haitana Savrla ki idach Tana de Rabbi Yehuda de Omar Hasra'as Safek shma asra. The Gemara answers, not necessarily. You could say that Rabbi Yehuda, that there's a different Tana who explains that Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that Hasra'as Safek is actually Hasra, is an effective Hasra. And if we say that Hasra'as Safek is an effective Hasra, well, if that's the case, then you can even answer, when it comes to Gid Hanoshe, that Rabbi Yehuda is uncertain which Gid Hanoshe is the Gid Hanoshe. You could say that Rabbi Yehuda is not actually sure if it's the right Gid Hanoshe or it might be the left Gid Hanoshe. And he says that when somebody eats the right Gid Hanoshe and he eats also the separate Gid Hanoshe, the left Gid Hanoshe, and there were separate Hasra'as, even though each one is a Hasra'as Safek, that maybe this is the Gid Hanoshe, even though they're doubtful Hasra'as, nonetheless, Rabbi Yehuda would say, you definitely ate the hanashes, since you ate both of them. So one of them was the hanashes, and you were warned for each one, even though each one was Hasra'as Safek, that's a valid Hasra'ah, and therefore, the fact that you ate the hanashes, since you ate both of them, you definitely ate the hanashes, you're going to be chayiv 40 lashes for eating that one. Desanya, how do you know that Rabbi Yehuda says that Hasra'as Safek is a valid Hasra'ah? Desanya, that we learn in our Brayso, Lo Sosir Mimenu Ad Boker V'Gomer, the pasuk that we've been discussing, when it comes to Korban Pesach, it says, don't leave any meat of the Korban Pesach over to the morning. Don't leave anything over to the morning. So that's a lav. So you should be chayiv makis. If you leave anything over to the morning, you should be chayiv makis for that, right? But then the pasuk continues, "Vanosim mimenu ad boker ba'ish tisrofu." Ba'akosuf litin esei acher lo saisi lomar she'ein lo kanolav div Rabbi Yehuda. Says Rabbi Yehuda, look, the pasuk says lo sosim mimenu ad boker. Don't leave it over to the morning. So says Rabbi Yehuda, you should be chayiv lashes for that. However, immediately afterwards it says, "Vanosim mimenu ad boker ba'ish tisrofu." However, if you did leave it over, here's what you do. Burn it, and then you won't be chayiv lashes. So says Rabbi Yehuda, right? That because the pasuk tells you what to do if you did leave it over, so it's what the pasuk is essentially saying is, look, don't leave it over to the morning. But if you do leave it over to the morning, this is what you do, and you won't be chayiv makis. But if the Torah would not have said, if you do leave it over to the morning, this is what you do, and if we only had, don't leave it over to the morning, then you would be chayiv makis. Rabbi Yehuda is saying you're not chayiv makis only because the Torah says, and if you leave it over, this is what you do. If the Torah didn't say what to do if you left it over, you would be chayiv makis for having left over the Korban Pesach. Okay, so what? So what is that? How are you going to warn the guy? According to Rabbi Yehuda, there isn't anything inherently wrong with getting makis for noser, with getting makis for having left over the Korban Pesach. The thing is, how are you going to get makis for noser, you have to warn the guy, don't leave it over till the morning. That is Hasra'as Safek. Why is it Hasra'as Safek? Bit of a complicated question. We'll get to that in a second. But the point is, it's Hasra'as Safek, and nonetheless, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't have any issue with theoretically him getting makis based on that Hasra'as Safek, only because the Torah then says, that's why you're not going to get makis. But if not for that pasuk, then you would get makis for leaving it over, even though there's Hasra'as Safek. So we see that Rabbi Yehuda's shita, based on this brisa, is that Hasra'as Safek, there's nothing wrong with it. You can get makis based on Hasra'as Safek. Why is it Hasra'as Safek? It's a little bit, I don't know. I found it to be a little bit of a tricky question. I don't know if anybody has a way that they want to explain why the Hasra'as Safek for noser would be considered Hasra'as Safek, share with us in WhatsApp. I'll give you what I think. First, I'm going to take a slurp of tea. Now, the question is, why is it Hasra'as Safek? Why is it a doubtful Hasra'ah? Well, what are you going to warn him? Well, I guess the Torah says don't leave over any Korban Pesach, right? So Ruvain, I don't know, is at his Seder, and he's got some Korban Pesach there. And Shimon's going to warn him, don't leave over any of the Korban Pesach till the morning. If you do, you're going to be chayiv makis. And he leaves it over to the morning. And so we're saying he'd be chayiv makis. And we're saying that that's Hasra'as Safek, a doubtful Hasra'ah. What's doubtful about that Hasra'ah? What's doubtful about that Hasra'ah? Don't leave, it's pretty clear. The Torah says, don't leave over the Korban Pesach till the morning. And if you do, you're chayiv makis. So Shimon warns Reuven, don't leave over the Korban Pesach till the morning. He left it over to the morning. He's chayiv ma. Well, what's doubtful about that? It's pretty clear. The Torah says, don't do it. He did it. What's the question? And if you're going to say, well, he didn't do anything, but as we're going to see in a second, well, let's go right there in the Brisa for a second. Rabbi Yaakov says, Rabbi Yaakov, lo min Hashem uzeh, has nothing to do with the fact that, well, the Torah says, vanosim menu ad boker. No, that's not why. Yaakov argues in Rabbi Yehuda and says that the reason why there's no chiyuv makis by noser is because it's lav she'ein bo ma'aseh. You didn't do anything. How can you get makis if you're not doing something? You left the shave al taisa. You left it. Became morning. You didn't do anything wrong, right? If you kill somebody, if you machal Shabbos, you could be chayiv for doing something. Right? You eat nevela. You did something. Here you didn't do anything. You sat back and did nothing. So Rabbi Yaakov says that you're not chayiv makis because you didn't do anything. So that's Rabbi Yaakov's shita. It's not Rabbi Yehuda's shita. So again, why is this Hasra'as Safek? What's the doubt? And if you're going to tell me, well, who knows if he's going to end up leaving it over? I don't know. Can't you say the same thing about eating nevela? If you warn somebody, hey, don't eat the nevela, you don't know if he's going to actually do it. When he does it, so then he did it. Now he's chayiv makas for eating nevela. But so here also, Kilu, if you warn him, don't leave it over to the morning. We also don't know if he's going to leave it over. Kilu, I don't really understand what's so doubtful. Whenever you warn somebody, you don't know if they're going to do it or not. They do it, they're chayiv. So here also, you warned him, don't leave it over to the morning. He left it over to morning, he's chayiv. Again, the fact that there's no action, there's nothing to do with Rabbi Yehuda. That's Rabbi Yaakov's shita. You said not to do something here. He did it. What's doubtful about that? So I think maybe you could say, the point is that there's no reason to doubt him. If there's nevela in front of somebody, and you say that he's taking out his fork and his knife, and he's about to eat the nevela, and we say to him, hey, I see you're about to eat nevela, there's like a smoking gun there. Don't do it. I see, like there's a reason to be suspicious, the reason to say don't do it. Here, there's no reason, like the warning, like why are you warning me? Like what makes you think I'm going to leave it over to the morning? Like of course I have a korban Pesach. It's Pesach. I have a korban Pesach. Like what are you driving me nuts about? I have a korban. Yeah, okay, I'll eat it. I know I have to eat it till the morning. Like why are you driving me nuts? Is there anything that I'm doing that indicates that's abnormal? That indicates that I have any intention of leaving it over to the morning? I think that maybe that's how you could say it. Well, that's why it's Hasra'as Safek, because there really is there's like nothing suspicious here. There's no reason to prompt the warning. So the warning's kind of coming out of nowhere. So a warning that kind of comes out of nowhere and isn't like based on anything and has nothing to be like, applied to concretely. So maybe that's what makes it Hasra'as Safek. Anyways, I don't know. It was a little bit of a subtle kind of thing. Tashma, come in here. So what do we see? So we see that according to that shita, Rabbi Yehuda actually could say that Hasra'as Safek is a valid Hasra. And if that is the case, so then, again, if you eat both hanashes and you get 40 makis, you could say that, either you could say that Rabbi Yehuda for sure says it's the right one, or you could say that he's not sure which one, and you warned him both times. Each time was Hasra'as Safek, but Hasra'as Safek is valid, and he definitely ate you definitely ate the hanashes since you ate both of them. Tashma, come in here. So we don't know. Achal beis gidin mi beis yirechis mi beis behemis. If a person eats 2 hanashes from 2 thighs, mi beis behemis, from 2 animals. Now, why is it important that it came from 2 animals? Because the point is that it's the same thigh. Right? If you're going to eat a right thigh and a left thigh, why is it important that it's 2 animals? Every animal is a right thigh and a left thigh. Just you can use 1 animal. So it's important that it's 2 animals because you're eating the hanashes from the same thigh, either the right one or the left one, from 2 animals. Okay. So Sofek Peh, you get 80 makis. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Eno Sofek El Arboim. Rabbi Yehuda says you get 40 makis. From the fact that we're saying from 2 thighs from 2 separate animals, Pshita de Tarvayu li Isura. So it must mean, first of all, that we're talking about the same the hanashes from the same side of the animal, and they're both also right because we're saying that he gets 40 makis, right? Right, we're saying that he gets 40 makis. We're saying that he gets 40 makis. Now, we had also said, of course, at the beginning of the Gemara, that Rabbi Yehuda says, Vadas Machras Shel Yomin. That it probably means the right one. So the fact that we're saying that he ate both, right, both of them were the same one. Now, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't entertain any notion that it would be the left hanashes. He thinks it's probably the right hanashes. And we're saying that he ate two of the same gid hanoshe. And we're saying that he's definitely chayiv makis. And Rabbi Yehuda, there's no indication that he'd be chayiv makis for the left one. There, right? He says that you would be adas machras, that it's the right one. The question was, is he 100% sure that it's the right one, or is he doubtful about the right one? Well, the fact of the matter is saying that you only ate the right gid hanoshe, and you're chayiv makis for it, means that it must be that he's certain that it's the right gid hanoshe. Pshita de tarvayu li isura, that they are both. Also, the Rabbi Yehuda itzrich shmamina mifshat pshita le shmamina. And it's needed for Rabbi Yehuda, as we're going to see in a second. And we see mifshat pshita le shmamina, that it is clear to Rabbi Yehuda in terms of our question: is he 100% certain that it's the right gid hanoshe, or is he uncertain that it's the right gid hanoshe? He's 100% certain it's the right gid hanoshe. And if you eat two right gid hanoshes, you are going to be chayiv makis for that, because you definitely ate the gid hanoshe. V'pshita le amai soifeg mem v'sulo loke pei. But if, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's definitely the right gid hanoshe, and he ate two right gid hanoshes, shouldn't he be chayiv 80 makis, like the Tana Kama says? Why is he only chayiv 40? You ate the right gid hanoshe, which is a chayiv makis, times 2. Here we're talking about where there is no kazais. What does that mean that there's no kazais? So Rashi over here says that basically you had two, let's say half zayases, so neither gid hanoshe out of kazais, but together they made up a kazais. However, the Agosabach takes us back to Rashi and Daf Pegimel, who prefers to say, no, it's talking about one of them had a kazayas, and the other one had less than a kazayas. And Rabbi Yehuda says that you need to eat a whole kazayas. Let's go weiter. The Tanya that we learn in the Brisa, achlo ve'ein bo kazayas chayiv. According to the Tanakama, according to Chachamim, if you eat less than a kazayas of gid hanoshe, you are chayiv. Meaning, if you eat an entire gid hanoshe, but it is less than a kazayas, according to the Chachamim, you would nonetheless be chayiv, because they would consider it to be beria. They would consider it to be a whole gid hanoshe, and a complete item. Therefore, that makes it significant, and you're chayiv for eating gid hanoshe, even though it's less than a kazais. Rabbi Yehuda omer achi yebo kazais. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says that you're only going to be chayiv if it's a full kazais. He doesn't consider it to be beria, because he considers it as a part of the larger animal. So he says you'd have to eat a kazais of it. So we see, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you have to eat a kazais of gid hanoshe in order to be chayiv. So if from one animal you ate a full kazais, but from the other animal you ate less than a kazais, Rabbi Yehuda would say that you're only chayiv 40 makis. Okay, gewaldig. So we have essentially come to the conclusion that according to Rabbi Yehuda, it is definitely the right gid hanoshe. There's only one gid hanoshe per animal, and it is definitely the right gid hanoshe. And if you eat it, you'll be chayiv makis. All right, and now we begin to transition into Agadata for the rest of the daf, and it's really quite interesting in my opinion. The time of my Gemara, why does Rabbi Yehuda say that there's only one gid hanoshe and that it's the right gid hanoshe? Amar Rava says, Rava, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, ha yerech, right? Aken lo yochu bnei Yisrael is gid ha noshe asher al kaf ha yerech. I think I said that right. Ha yerech, the yerech hamiyumanes shebi yerech, the main thigh, the right thigh. V'rabbanan hahu deposhet isurei bechule yerech lafuke chitzon dilo. As I mentioned earlier, the rabbis, however, what they do with hayerech is that it means that it's the gid, in terms of identifying the gid hanoshe, it is the nerve that goes throughout the entirety of the yerech, the entirety of the leg, as opposed to the secondary gid hanoshe that's only also midrabanan, does not go through the entirety of the leg. Rabbi Shua ben Levi Omar, says Rabbi Shua ben Levi Omar Kra, Behei Avko Imo. He explains that Rabbi Yehuda's shita for saying that it's the right gid hanoshe, because the pasuk says Behei Avko Imo, which is like like a chibuk, like a hug. Ki adam shechovek es chaveru, like somebody who hugs his friend. V'yodom agas likaf yemino shel chaveru, right? If you're facing your friend, so your right is opposite your friend's left, and then you hug your friend and you wrap your arm around your friend, and your right arm goes around his body and is now on the right side of right. Your hand is now on the right side of your friend's body, and I guess in terms of sciatic nerves, we would be talking about, if we're talking about hey avko imo, it would have been the right sciatic nerve that was dislocated. Reb Shmuel ben Achmani Omar ki oived kechavim nidme lo. Reb Shmuel ben Achmani says what happened was Yaakov Avinu saw that there was that there was this I guess what appeared like a person, and he thought. So Yaakov Avinu thought, oh wow, there's an Oved Kochavim here. The Amar that we said Yisrael shenitfal lo Oved Kochavim baderech toflod liyamino. If you pass by an Oved Kochavim on the way, on the road, make sure that he is to your right, so that if you need to defend yourself, so he's to your right, and your right side would be your stronger side. So make sure that your stronger side is closer to the Oved Kochavim. And what ended up happening was that is precisely why he was struck on his right leg, because that was the side that was closer to the Sarah Shel Esav. Rav Shmuel bar Acha Kamed Rav Papa Mishmei Derove bar Ula Omar Ketaman Chacham Nidmelo. Actually, what happened was Yaakov Avinu saw the Sarah Shel Esav, and he thought that this was a Talmud Chacham ahead of him. The Ramah we said Mahalich Liyamin Rabo Areze Bor, that a person who walks to his Rebbe's right, and I assume the assumption therefore must be that I guess they're walking in the same direction, him and the Sarah Shel Esav, I guess. So he thought that the Sarah Shel Esav was a Talmud Chacham, and if he would walk to the Talmud Chacham's right, well, then he would be a fool, because only fools walk to the right of a Talmud Chacham. Rather, he walked to the left of the Talmud Chacham, which means that the Talmud Chacham was to his right, and then all of a sudden turns out it wasn't Sarah Esav, and it turns out it was not a Talmud Chacham, it was the Sarah Shel Esav, who quickly dislocated his right, Yaakov's right leg, which was closer to him. Rabbanan me'achore also v'nashe b'tarvayu, whereas the Rabbanan disagree with Rabbi Yehuda, and they say no, the Sarah Shel Esav approached Yaakov Avinu from behind and dislocated both of his legs, which is why the Gid Anoshe applies to both of the legs of the animal. V'rabbanan I be'avko imo ma'darshu be. What are the, according to Rabbi Yehuda, yidarsh be'avko imo, like a chibuk, like a hug, which is why his right arm was around the back of the Sarah Shel Esav's arm was around the back of Yaakov Avinu and got to his right leg. What do the rabbis do with Behei Avko Imo? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. It's like a different Josh of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Melamid shehe'elu avok miraglosam ad kisei hakoved. Behei Avko is like avok, is like dirt. That as they were struggling with one another, they were kicking up dirt, and that dirt rose up to the kisei hakuvid. Over here it says by Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov and Sarah Shel Esav bei Avko imo. It says in the pasuk in Nachum, ve'onon avak raglav, that clouds are the dust of the Rabban Shalom's feet. So this dust went all the way up to the Rabban Shalom. From Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, Rabbi Shua ben Levi, lo menikra shmo Gid Anoshe. Why is it called the Gid Anoshe? Shenosha mimekomo ve'ola, because it skipped. It got dislocated, it skipped from its place and went upwards. And similarly it says, Noshisa givurasam hayu linoshim. In Sefer Yirmiyahu Hanavi describes the downfall of Babylonia. And in describing the downfall of Babylonia, it says, Noshisa givurasam, regarding the soldiers of the Babylonian army, Noshisa gvurasam, their might, their bravery, jumped from them, left them, jumped away from them, hayu linoshim, and they essentially became like women. I think the point being that it was the men that were involved in the fighting, the women were not. So their fighting spirit jumped out of them, and they essentially then became like the women who were not participating in the fighting. So we see that Noshisa means, and Gid Anoshe means to jump, like Yaakov Avinu's thigh jumped out of its place. Amr Yossi Bab Chanina, my dichsiv, Dover Shalach B'Yakov V'Nafel B'Yisrael, that the Rabban Shalom sent Epis to Yaakov, and it fell in Israel. Dover Shalach B'Yakov Zegir Anoshe. It was Yaakov Avinu's Gir Anoshe that was dislocated. V'Nafel, his leg that was dislocated. V'Nafel B'Yisrael Shapashat Yisur B'Chol Yisrael. That this was an event that happened to Yaakov Avinu, yet it has implications for all of Israel. Yaakov Avinu was hit in his Gir Anoshe and his leg was dislocated, and for that reason all of Israel to this day does not eat the Gir Hanoshe. You can skip the next word. When Yosef HaTzadik instructs that animals should be slaughtered for lunch for him and his brothers, the instructions were, when you lay out the meat, open up, right? You shecht it, proper, right? Proper shchita. Rashi says, let's look at Rashi, about 5 lines from the bottom of Rashi. Lefisha b'nei Yaakov shomer mitzvahs saw you, because the children of Jacob they followed the mitzvahs. The afal pishlo nitna Torah mekubalin ayu me'avosem. Even though the Torah wasn't yet given, they nonetheless, the b'nei Yaakov Avinu, they had the Aseres Hashvatim, the 12 tribes of Israel, they had a Kabbalah, a tradition for what the mitzvahs were, and therefore they would only eat shchita, shechted meat, and therefore, right, prala and beis shchita, Yosef HaTzadik instructed Asher al Beiso, to the people in his household, utvach tevach, that after it's slaughter the animals and show that they are properly slaughtered. Show that they are properly slaughtered, display the beis shchita, to show that there was a proper shchita. V'hochein, and when it says v'hochein, prepare the Gir Anoshe. Told Gir Anoshe b'fneim, take the Gir Anoshe and put it before them. Kimanda Omar, Gir Anoshe Neser Livnei Noach, as we're going to see later on Daf, was it Tzarivav, Daf Tzarivav, I don't remember, that Daf Kuf, right? That it is, that the Gir Anoshe was already also to the Bnei Noach, i.e. to the children of Yaakov Avinu. Okay. Vayivosa Yaakov levado. Well, to the Bnei Noach, including the children of Yaakov Avinu. Vayivosa Yaakov levado. And Yaakov remained by himself. Amar Elazar says, al pachin ketanim. He went back for small. He remained for small little jugs, right? Because the previous pasuk already says, "Vayikochem v'avirem esanocha." Right? The previous pasuk says that Yaakov Avinu brought all of his children and his family across the river. Vayavor es hashelo, and he brought all of his main things across the river already. But it says, Vayivasa Yaakov levado. Yaakov nonetheless remained by himself. Why did he remain by himself? So Amr Belazar shenishtayu al pachin ketanim, because he wanted to take even the small jugs and things. Mikan tzadikim shechovev aleim mamonim yosem migufam. So we see that by tzadikim, actually their money, their possessions is more chashuv to them than their own bodies. He put himself in danger for these pachim ketanim. V'chokach lama lefishem poshin yedayim bagezel. But that's because there's a reason for it. Not because they love gashmias, but because they earn it. They don't touch anything that's stolen. Everything is earned, everything is honest, and therefore the things that they have are important to them. Such that Yaakov Avinu stayed behind for these pachim ketanim. And we see that it ended up getting him into trouble with the Sar Shel Esav. Vayovek ish imo ad alos hashachar. That they fought they struggled until the morning. Came daybreak, came the morning, struggle ended. Reb Yitzchak says, Reb Yitzchak Mekalan Talmud Chacham Shlo Yetzi Yechide Balayla. Says Reb Yitzchak, we see from here that a Torah scholar should not go out at night. Says Tosfos, Omer Rabbeinu Tam to Davka Noka Talmud Chacham. Or let's even read Rashi first, the last Rashi on the page. Shara Yaakov Nisha Yechidi V'Huza. You see Yaakov Avinu was alone at night, and he got hurt. He got damaged by the Sar Shel Esav. Tosfos says, "Or Rabbeinu Tam the Davka Naka Talmud Chacham, specifically Talmud Chacham, mishum the mazikin miskanim boim, because the mazikim are jealous of the Talmud Chacham. It's dangerous for Talmud Chacham to go out at night, as demonstrated by what happened to Yaakov Avinu with Sar Shel Esav. Reb Abba Bakana Amar Me'ocha, Hineu Zorez Gorin Asoyrim. Naomi instructed Rus after they came back to Eretz Yisrael. Naomi instructs Rus, I advise you that you should find a husband, that you should get married. And additionally, I advise you what you should do is, right, this is after Rus had already visited Boaz's field and was able to collect from there. Naomi advises Rus to go at night to Boaz's field. He's going to be winnowing the barley at night. Go there and lie there, whatever. Now, how did Naomi know that he's going to be sleeping there? Right? Naomi devised the whole plan for Rus. You're going to go to the granary, sneak in. He's going to be winnowing his grain, his barley, and then he's going to go to sleep and pull up next to him, etc. How did Naomi know that Boaz was going to be sleeping at the granary? Well, I think it's probably more common that when people work late into the night, when they're done working, they go home and sleep in their bed. They don't necessarily sleep on the floor of the office. But Naomi knew that Boaz was going to be staying there because he wasn't going to travel alone at night. Rashi says, it's a genai. It's pasnished. It's no good for, not nice for a Talmud Chacham to be wandering around by himself at night. So this seems to be unlike what we were concerned about with Yaakov and Esav a minute ago in terms of the mazikin and it's dangerous. This is more like it's we don't want the yentis. Why is this Talmud Chacham going? What's he doing at night by himself? What's he doing? The Rambam Dafka says in Hilchos Deos, the Rambam says about a Talmud Chacham also that he shouldn't walk around at night. He says Mipnei Chashad. Again, you don't want people, So the Rambam says there, look, if he has a shir that he's going to, every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, he gives a shir at 5 to 9, he's walking by himself to the shir. Okay, beseder. But just to be kind of like, hanging out with the people in the park outside the house at night, it's not a nice thing. So therefore, Naomi knew that Boaz was going to be sleeping there at night and was not going to be leaving, and she was able to devise a whole plan for Rus. That Avram got up early in the morning. So this is a pasuk by Akedas Yitzchok. So first of all, Tosfos asks a kasha on this. He says, Akedas Yitzchok, we know that by Akedas Yitzchok, Avram Avinu went with Eliezer, he went with Yishmael, he obviously went with Yitzchok, he wasn't by himself. So Rashi says that, even though there were other people, then Kol Sheken, Alachas Kama V'Chama, you shouldn't be at right. So it says, V'yashkim Avram Baboker. He got up in the morning because he didn't want to be traveling to Maria at night. So Rashi points out he wasn't by himself anyways. So he says, okay, he wasn't by himself. Alachas Kama V'Chama. If he was by himself, he shouldn't go up by night. But Tosfos says, I don't understand. There were other people. He also says, Tosfos says, Shluchei Mitzvah in Nizokin. He was on his way to do the Ratzon of the Rabbeinu Shalom. Akedas Yitzchok. What did he have to fear anyways? He's on his way to do a mitzvah. Anyways, he has another kasha. Tosfos says that this pasuk shouldn't be from Akedas Yitzchok. Rather, this should be from after the Rabban Shalom destroys Sodom. So it says there that Vayashkim Avram Aboker Elamokom Asher Omad Shom, and he went there to daven by himself. And again, it says Vayashkim Baboker that he went in the morning because he didn't want to be going out by himself at night. The rabbis say from here, Leichno re'eyes shlom achecho ve'shlom v'gomer. Yaakov Avinu sends out Yosef HaTzadik, and he sends him to his brothers, and of course we know what happened there, the whole thing with Egypt, it's sent to Egypt, and the Chayra, Chalasu, all that stuff. Anyway, it says, re'eyes shlom achecho, see, in daylight, so you should be able to see. Rav Omar Me'ocha says, Rav from here, Vayizrach lo Hashemesh, that it says that the sun shone for Yaakov Avinu. This was after the fight with the Sarah Shel Esav. It says that the sun shone for Yaakov Avinu, and we're going to explain. It's a little bit unclear exactly what the raya is over here. We'll give some options at the end. Rabbi Akiva says, Rabbi Akiva, about this pasuk, Sha'alti is Rabbi Gamliel v'es Rabbi Yoshua be'itliz shel imaum. Says Rabbi Akiva that I asked the following question to Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yoshua at the butcher in a place called Imaum. That they were in the butcher, in the market, to buy an animal because it was the chasana of Rabbi Gamliel's son. And Rabbi Kiva asked him a kasha there in the market. Ksiv vayizrach lo hashemesh. That the sun shone for Yaakov Avinu. V'chi shemesh lo levado zarcha. What, the shemesh shone for him? That's very nice. The sun shone just for Yaakov Avinu. Well, come on, it wasn't just for Yaakov Avinu. The sun shone for everybody, the whole world. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Rabbi Yitzchak, shemesh haba'a ba'avuro zarcha ba'avuro. The sun that set early for him shone early for him. New? What are you talking about? The sun set early? The chsiv, as the apostle says, Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva vayelech Charona. That Yaakov left Beersheva and he went to Charon. Pashtus is that he arrived at Charon. He left Beersheva and he arrived in Charon. He traveled and arrived in Charon. Uchsiv, vayivgav hamakom, and then all of a sudden he's in hamakom. Hamakom is Beis El. What's Beis El? Not Beis El in, I don't know, where's Beis El? The Shomron? No, it's not that. It's Beis Elokim. It's Har Moriah, Yerushalayim. So I understand, he left Beersheba, he went to Charon, now he's in Yerushalayim. What's going on here? What's going on is, Kimota leCharon, when Yaakov Avinu arrived in Charon, Omar, he says, wait a second, how could this be? I left from Beersheba to go to Charon. Is it possible that I passed by a place where my fathers prayed and I spaced out? And I didn't pray there? So he says, wow, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going back. The land kind of folded up. Miyad vayivga b'makom, and immediately there he was at Har Moriah. Immediately at Kfitzas Haderech. Immediately he was at Yerushalayim. Immediately when he arrived at Charon, he says, wait, I got to go back to Yerushalayim. He was there in a heartbeat. Kadsoli, and then when he was done davening in Yerushalayim, he says, okay, now I got to go back to Charon. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Rebbeinu says, wait, not so fast. Tzaddik zeh balabez maloni v'yipote b'lolina. This tzaddik has come to my hotel, has come to Yerushalayim, and he's not even going to stay for the night? Oh, come on. Miyad bo hashemesh, immediately the sun set. And so one way to understand it, which I think is the official way to understand it, is, and since the sun set, he was unable to travel then at night, because Talmidei Chachamim don't travel at night. So we see also from this story that Talmidei Chachamim don't travel at night. I don't know, I feel like another way to understand it is also when it says Vayizrach lo hashemesh, which is the initial pasuk that we quoted, that maybe you could say, right, so the sun shone early, where he said just like the sun set early for Yaakov Avinu on his way to Charan, and that whole story that we just read, also maybe you could say the sun rose early when he had to, after the fight with Esav, again, because he was walking and he didn't want to travel at night, so the sun rose early and he was able to travel during the day. Either way, we see from this story, once again, that Talmidei Chachamim would not travel at night. That Yaakov Avinu took from the stones, the multiple stones of the place. And then it says, the next morning he took the stone. Rabbi Yitzchak says, that all of the stones gathered together and there was a big struggle. Each one says, I want this tzaddik to put his head on me. And starting to brace that all of them then had one big moija and they became one stone. The 12 stones became one stone, and that's what it means, Vayikach eso even. Vayachlom v'nei sulam mutzav arza, and Yaakov Avinu dreamt, and there was a ladder on the ground, and it went up to the Shamayim. Tanakama rochbo shel sulam. How wide was the ladder? Shmonas alofim parsos. 8,000 parsas wide. That's very, very, very wide. I don't think you've ever seen a ladder that wide. The apostle says, "V'nei maloche elokim olim v'yordim bo," that there were angels of God going up, olim, plural, and going down, plural. Olim shnayim v'yordim shnayim. 2 were going up, 2 were going down at a time. And when they both got to the same point of the ladder, so there would have to be enough room for the two angels that were going up side by side and the two angels that were going down side by side to all be side by side, i.e. 4 wide. It says about an angel in Sefer Daniel, Ugvioso kisarshish, and his body is like Tarshish, the river Tarshish, Vigmir de Tarshish, Trey Alfe Parse Avu, and we have a tradition that the Tarshish river is 2,000 parses wide. So if each angel was 2,000 parses wide times 4, 8,000 parses wide was the width of this ladder. Tana, it was taught in a Brisa Olin that they would go up, umistaklin b'dyukno shomayla v'yardin umistaklin b'dyukno shomata bo the sakune, etc. What's going on here? This is fascinating, friends. Absolutely fascinating. These angels were very confused. They went up to Shamayim and they're looking at, right, in Sefer Yechezkel, the Ma'aseh Merkava, the first paragraph of Sefer Yechezkel. Yechezkel describes the 4 chayas, and the chayas, right, these of fun of a chayas hakodesh. The chayas hakodesh, they had these 4 faces. One face was the face of a lion, another was the face of an ox, the face of an eagle was the third, and the fourth, the face of a man. Which man? Yaakov Avinu. The face of the chayas is the face of Yaakov Avinu. And these angels were going up to Shamayim and they were looking at the chayas hakodesh and they said, that looks like that person down there. And they went up and back down and then back up again and back down again. What's going on over here? Again, Olin mistakim b'dyukno shomayla, v'yodin mistakim b'dyukno shomato. Bolis akude, says Rashi, they got jealous. They wanted to harm Yaakov Avinu. Miyad v'hine Hashem nitzav olav. The very next pasuk says that the Rabban Shalom was standing there above Yaakov Avinu. If not for the fact that we have a pasuk saying so, we would have been unable to say it. Like a person, Rashi says he's waving with like a fan who's fanning his son from heat. Right? These angels are fire, and the heat was getting dangerously close to Yaakov Avinu, and Avram, and the Rabban Shalom had to stand over Yaakov Avinu to save him. If I said Avram Avinu, that was a mistake. Yaakov Avinu we're talking about. The land that you are lying upon, v'gomer ma'rabuse. What's it telling? Like, okay, obviously the land that you are lying on. Yeah, you're lying on the land. Great. That the Rabban Shalom folded up all of Israel, Yaakov Avinu, and placed all of Israel under Yaakov Avinu, to represent that just like it's so easy to just lie over all of Israel, it's all right under you. So also it should be easy for the Yidden to be able to capture Eretz Yisrael in the future. Friends, we're going to hold it over here. This is about as far as I got until I ran out of time. So we'll pick up from here tomorrow. Friends, that was Daf Tzadi Aleph, Daf 91 of Masechta Chullin. The first big chunk, the big sugya of today was how many gid hanashes are in an animal. The Chacham, of course, say that there are 2 gid hanashes, as we already saw from the Mishnah 2 days ago. Rabbi Yehuda says that there is but 1 gid hanashe in an animal, and it is the right leg. Of course, the big discussion today was that Rabbi Yehuda says hadas machras, that it's the right leg. The big question was, is Rabbi Yehuda saying that it's definitely midoraisa the right leg, or is it maybe the right leg, and he thinks it's the right leg, but he's not sure? That was the big question, and we ultimately landed on the conclusion that it is definitely midoraisa, the right leg, according to Rabbi Yehuda. We then got into Agadata, beginning with why is Rabbi Yehuda so sure that it is the right leg, and we brought different psukim why it should be the right leg, different theories, like maybe a hug, and got into all sorts of things, and then one thing led to the next, and we ultimately got into the whole story with Yaakov Avinu when he was on his way to Haran and all the interesting things that happened, how he got to Yerushalayim, what happened in Yerushalayim with the angels and the ladders. Very, very interesting, friends. I hope you enjoyed Daf Tzadi Aleph, Daf 91 of Masechta Chullin, and I hope you enjoy your day. Cheers.